Hi everyone, it's Dork here. This is an update on my Argie 15 build. I've been working on this since around about January, and I thought I'd better explain the name, Kalliope. Like all good boat names, there's a bit of a story behind this one. Well, you've all heard of Jason and the Argonauts. Well, this is a story about Jason and the Argienauts. Yeah, okay, I'm blaming Chris Waite for that joke. But anyway, we end up with Greek mythology as a starting point. So when Jason set off on his voyage to capture the Golden Fleece, he had a young bloke with him called Orpheus, who was an excellent musician. Along the way they came across these very troublesome young ladies called the Sirens. The Sirens were some sort of misguided creature who would sing songs and lure sailors to their deaths. But Orpheus was able to play music so loud that the crew were unable to hear the sirens, and therefore he saved them from an awful fate. It was his mother, Kalliope, who was one of the 9 muses in Greek mythology, who taught him how to play music. And so therefore it is the mother of Orpheus who is the saviour of sailors, and that's how I came up with the name Kalliope. Actually, it was my mate Chris who came up with the name Kalliope. It's spelt with a K traditionally in Greek mythology instead of a C. So here we are, my Argie 15 called Kalliope, and I hopefully will be taking many Argienauts on some trips around Moreton Bay off the coast of Queensland in Australia. So where we left off in the last video, you can see that I was more or less completing the internal fit out of the hull. So you can see all the flotation tanks are in, and I was just starting to work on the side seating. The centerboard case is in. I've done all of the in whales and out whales, and it was just about ready to flip over and finish the outside of the hull. So here it is with the side seats removed. You can see I've actually put some I guess some supports in there for the middle of the seats. Just one thing to note, with the Argie 15 design, I've actually added 100mm to the shear height, which is why it probably looks a little bit different to some of the other Argie 15s you'll see on the internet. You know, the hull is actually 100mm deeper. Here's Dusty and me out in the backyard just doing the first fit of the centerboard. The centerboard actually needed a little bit of adjustment. It wouldn't go completely vertical, so I've done that slight modification. And then shifted it back into the garage because we had 10 inches of rain in the last 2 weeks. So the poor old car's been back out on the footpath again, and I've prepared the hull for painting. Firstly, what I did was glass the bottom of the hull and part way up the strake on each side, as you can see, and then glued runners almost full length, and then a skeg as well sitting behind the centerboard case. So here you can see the finished result prior to adding the primer. So I'm using a 2-pack epoxy primer. It's called Norglass Ship Shape. You can see after the first coat it's actually a little bit patchy because I'm rolling it on. It's quite thin, but here it is after a second coat of the primer, and yeah, you can see it's actually looking really fantastic. The stuff is like armour for your boat. It is really tough. I've never used 2-pack paint before, but I'm a real fan of this stuff. There's been a few other activities in between working on the hull. Here are the side seats, they're all finished now, varnished with 3 coats of marine varnish. They're made from a hardwood called Meranti, and in fact I've used Meranti all throughout the hull for any of the other timber, outwales, inwales, seat framing, the runners, the skeg, everything's made of Meranti hardwood. Just as a summary of the types of timber I've used in the construction, I've mentioned the hardwood being Meranti. The plywood is actually Joubert marine ply, which is made in France from West African Akume. Look, in Australia, honestly, a lot of the marine plywood we get is just garbage, and it's very hard to find something that's quality, but other boat builders in Australia use this Joubert marine ply. It is a genuine 5-ply, and I've found it to be just magic to work with. It's really good. And finally, for the yard and the boom, and for the tiller arm, I've used Tasmanian oak, just plain varnished Tasmanian oak. It's a beautiful light coloured timber. Comes up amazingly well when you varnish it. So that's it. Yeah, West African Akume, Meranti hardwood, and Tasmanian oak. They're the 3 types of timber I've used in the construction, nothing else. Here you can see that I've dressed the boom with all the fittings, and the yard, and done a test fit. This is the sail that you would have seen me sew from the sailrite kit in one of my previous videos. It's probably a little bit small for this boat, but I'm using a mizzen as well, so we'll just see how that all plays out and how it performs. But this is the first fitting of the sail on the new yard and the new boom. I will have to do some work on the mast because it's been stained in a dark jarrah, which won't match with the rest of the natural timber, so I'm going to have to actually plane that back and revarnish it. So that's it. That's a bit of a summary on where we're up to. It's getting close. I feel like maybe another month and we should be pretty close to launch day.